Okay, what we're going to look at here very briefly is why megacities are growing, so the factors responsible for that. We look today at the fact that megacity size and distribution are changing, and into the future, what we're saying here is that megacities are generally on average going to get larger, so they're increasing in size, and generally we are seeing more megacities across the planet. And we did some work today that looked at the fact that there are now more megacities in LICs and MICs than there are in HICs. So what are the reasons for megacity and urban growth? Well, I'm just going to bring the camera down here, because first we need to understand, key to all of this, is the definition of a term known as urbanization. And you must remember this definition for urbanization as being the increase in the proportion of those living in urban areas. The little up arrow there stands for an increase. So urbanization is the increase in proportion of those living in urban areas. And what we're saying here is that cities are growing because of urbanization. People are moving to cities. They're moving from rural areas to urban areas for a number of reasons. And we'll just spend a couple of minutes looking at that. Firstly, people are driven out of rural areas and into urban areas because of security fears. So perhaps there is conflict or instability in those rural areas, particularly in parts of Africa or Asia. Or we may, and this links into the topic that we've just done, there may be natural hazard events which are forcing people to move to cities to look for food, water, shelter and safety. So that's the first reason. Secondly then, if we move up here, we see that generally in rural areas in the developing world, most people are engaged in something called subsistence farming. Now that's where you farm for yourself, you don't farm for profit. Subsistence farming is very, very vulnerable to changes in climate, to water shortages and so on. And so many people in rural areas simply move to the city in order to expand their employment opportunities. Generally, jobs in cities will pay better wages, and wages are a more reliable source of income than subsistence farming. So wages they see as better than subsistence farming, at least they get an income. When they're in the city, there is often quite a lot of availability of low-skilled manual labour or work, particularly in factories, so in the secondary sector producing products, or in something called the informal sector, which we'll look at in a bit more detail later on. But the informal sector are those jobs such as street peddlers, selling goods in market stalls, those sorts of things. So increase in employment opportunities, very, very important. Now, we'll come down here to the bottom of the sheet. Very simply, megacities and cities are growing because more people are being born than people are dying. And the difference between birth rates and death rates is known as the natural change. And in this case, we're just getting natural increase. So cities' populations are growing because fewer people are dying and more people are being born. Natural increase. And then finally, we come down to this point here, the agglomeration of activities. Now, the agglomeration, or agglomeration, just effectively means the bringing together of. Firstly, it means that there are more potential workers who live in the city, and they are therefore likely to have more skills. Businesses are attracted to cities because of the infrastructure, transport, communications like telephones, the internet, and so on. All that is attractive to business because it enables them to operate more efficiently. It enables them to operate at a higher level of profit. And then finally, there is something called the multiplier effect, which is where you get groupings of similar economic activities, which drives further growth and opportunity. So let's say, for example, you had IT firms attracted to the city. Other IT firms and associated firms will also come together in an urban area, and they will feed off each other and give each other increased business opportunities. Finally, it's often in urban areas that we just find the available office space and factory space which is suitable for use. So hopefully that's explained the nature of this mind map. The key thing is to pull out those factors that I've highlighted which look at why megacities in particular are growing in size.